Hello, my name is Matt Stone and welcome to my honours presentation for Part 1. This presentation will look at the current state of the Melbourne Metropolitan Rail Network, build an understanding around urban design principles that it currently lacks, and propose a direction for standards when developing the network into the future. The network has developed and expanded since its initial opening in 1854, when the line opened between Flinders Street and Port Melbourne Docks. Lines opened up through the west of the city before branching out progressively to the suburbs as they expanded further from the city centre. These lines have always been a fundamental public tool for citizens of Melbourne to move around the city at an affordable cost. Today, around only 12% of the city's population actually use these rail services from day to day. We need to figure out why this is the case and develop a rail network that incentivises users to move away from dirty combustion engine cars that require vast amounts more space than public services. We need to work towards a future where people preference socially viable options that make them feel more at home in their own city. At present, the Melbourne Metro has become a private enterprise run by a consortium of 3 companies: Hong Kong's Mass Transit Railway Corporation, Australia's John Holland Group, and United Group Limited Rail. We've seen a renewal of projects under the Andrews government as part of their Big Build initiative. The extension of the South Morang line to Mernda is now complete and has been a necessary example of how network chases urban sprawl. Construction of the Metro Tunnel project is underway to relieve congestion within the city loop, and plans for the suburban loop are planned to be finished by the year 2050. This will link locations such as Doncaster that has had plans for a train line for over 100 years, the Melbourne Airport, and various previously neglected areas around the city. These projects are simply trying to play catch up with works that should have been completed already. Metro Future will outline a bold objective for both network coverage and commuter experience as a whole. We can see where these neglected areas are, often being serviced by diesel-powered buses that not everyone feels comfortable to use. Melbourne is built around cars. There is currently very little incentive for this to change, and so in many ways we need to move forward in a collaborative way with the public to provide them with the service upgrade that they deserve as citizens. Peter Calthorpe, a renowned urban designer and architect based in the US, has developed a 7-part framework for socializing urban spaces through design processes. We must preserve the natural ecology of the space that we're building on, replace previously removed native flora, and embrace existing plant life. Supporting mixed-use options for everyone. Until the network can reach its full potential, there will be other modes of transport used alongside it. We need to make transitioning from one mode to another as seamless as possible. Design around the pedestrian, building spaces around people and not their cars. Applying bicycle infrastructure. Bikes are the most sustainable way to get people travelling small distances, to town centres and also to these new stations. Adding as many connection points as possible. Everything should be accessible to all, and the train's frequency really needs to improve. Investing in public transport. This is the aim of this project, to make sure public transport is a tool that citizens can be truly proud of. Matching solutions to population density. Ordering rollout according to who needs it most and building according to the context of each location. The city of Ghent in Belgium has managed to create public spaces by zoning cars out of the city centre. They have managed to lower car ownership by around 30%, reclaim streets for bike use only, and reopen the river and riverbanks that have previously been paved over to construct parking spaces. In the Netherlands, new road modifications have placed the importance and safety of pedestrians and cyclists ahead of drivers, pushing stopping lanes back so that drivers enter and exit intersections with more caution, painting cycling lanes, and greening any now vacant spaces. This reclaimed area allows for people to spend their leisure time in an inclusive, natural public space where transport systems facilitate their movement between spaces without the need for parking or excessive road widths. The best way to quantify the needs of those within a confined interior space is to look at offices. The offices of Frank Lloyd Wright were designed on the principle that open plan spaces, when done right, mitigate congestion, introduce natural elements even through built features such as these dendriform structural columns and vast skylights. These enhance the positive emotional response of the person using the space. The Bauerlandschaft movement in Germany introduced the idea of flexible and adaptable barriers in interiors to alter zones according to what is needed by the user at any given time. Metro Future will incorporate passive and active zones into the cabins of trains and use sensory stimulants in similar ways to this to make the journey as comfortable as possible. Significant features for intervention, the rules that will guide the project through the next stage, are that the cabin interiors must be able to adapt to external environments such as weather, not just through heating and cooling, but sensory stimulation such as warm and cool lighting. Measured in terms of rollout and what commuters actually need. Practical in the sense that a user going to work will have completely different requirements to someone coming from the airport. Natural, so spreading green spaces that already exist in the CBD throughout the Hodl grid and beyond. Comfortable, so importing successful hardware ideas to make the ride smoother, such as the pneumatic tyres from the Montreal metro system. Personal, publicly owned with little congestion, more frequent and faster services so that people don't feel like cattle entering trains. Spacious, where we avoid building seats on the cheap, and we build them for the 95th percentile with expanded cabin sizes to facilitate bigger seating, and to be accessible to absolutely everyone who needs it. The final deliverables for this project include posters showing off the details of the new design and all of its features, including survey data, documentation, and then a 1:50 physical model and a 1:1 virtual reality model that the user can explore throughout the presentation. There will also be network maps and journey maps showing off different case studies and how participants' trips could be improved if this plan's implemented. Development in the next stage will be crucial. The preliminary CAD modelling needs completed as early as possible in order to put groups together to body storm and roleplay with various layouts, opening up the design changes to a collaborative audience. Then looking at the prototyping phase, network redesign and rollout plan, and then the virtual reality model, which is the centerpiece of this model, showing off the interior changes and onboard experience from the perspective of the commuter. This step needs to be seamless before moving on to the rendering and documentation phase, and of course the final presentation. To represent the first stage of CAD development, a preliminary model has been made with a range of major constraints applied. Using a streamlined but hexagonal shape is by far the most effective for optimizing space and structure. Using windows and skylights wherever possible makes the narrow space feel much more open, and distributing zones between double-level cabins gives the passenger options at off-peak times with a median level that will run flush with the platform and service those with wheelchairs, bikes, or anyone who has difficulty with stairs or ramps. The pneumatic tyres will be added to wheel sets in a similar alignment to what we currently have, but include horizontal guiding wheels that center the locomotive on a single central track. This track will likely provide power to the vehicle and contain emergency braking systems. The secondary task will be to detail the interchange. Something like this combined with the train model will be fully explored through VR. The model will develop on those principles that relate to transit, but do not fully integrate into the train interior itself. Users who would ideally cycle to the interchange and hope to securely lock their bike away as they commute to work will need a place to do so. This further modelling will detail these functional features, as well as social features like meeting places and stylistic features, and then combine them to make a fully formed speculative model to suit public transport infrastructure needs as we move into the future. Thanks for listening. I hope you're as excited to see the final project as I am. Thank you for your time.